Shivoham, 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 Shivoham. Shivoham, 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 Shivoham. Shivoham, Shivoham. Shivoham, Shivoham. Shivoham, 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 Shivoham. Shivoham, 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 Shivoham.
Shuklambaradaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Manojabam Marutatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Varishtham Vatatmajam Vanarayudha Mukhyam Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye. Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam for another Satsang, beginning with Yogic Kriyas, followed by the study of Sundarakand. Today we shall practice in a meditative manner with very little explanations. I'll just call out the names. Most of you have been through this for many weeks now, so you should be very familiar. Let us begin with the 3 Oms. Allow the 3 Oms to help your mind get settled into a state of deep focus and attention. Inhale. Shift your awareness to your stomach. Perform the Uddiyana Bandha. Maintain this Bandha throughout all the Kriyas. Inhale. Shift your awareness to your throat. Activate the Ujjayi breath. Listen to the breath. And keep up this breathing throughout all the Kriyas. The Ujjayi breath and the Uddiyana Bandha. Inhale. Inhale, come up. Kamala Kriya. Enter the world of the breath. All right. Kaka Shuddhi Kriya. Mouth spouted like a beak of a crow. Powerful exhalation. You're going to cough. And then inhale, come up. Repeat it 5 times. Sit up tall and straight. Let's begin. At your own pace. Kamala Kriya. Mindful breathing. Listen to Vayu. All right. Agnisara Kriya. Breathe out, hold the breath out, pull your stomach in, flap the stomach in and out, and then breathe in. And again repeat. Let's do it 5 times, if you can, at your own pace. Sit up tall and straight. Let's go. Breathe out fully and begin. Kamala Kriya. Wonderful. Markata Kriyas, mindfully, let's do 3 rounds. Maintain the bandha throughout and breathe in and out with the Ujjayi breath. Let's begin. Inhale. Exhale. 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 One more round. Inhale. Exhale. 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 Kamala Kriya. Tune into the breath. Feel the connection between your palms, fingers, and your lungs. Gently, let's get up. We'll sit for Pranayama Kriya. Sit in Vajrasana, toes together, heels apart. Sit up tall and straight, keep your stomach pulled in. Perform the Brahma Mudra. Fold your thumbs first, fingers over your thumbs. Place them on either side of your belly button. Inhale. Exhale, relax your stomach. Push those vital organs in. Collapse on top of your thighs. At least 5 long, deep breaths. Breathe through the back of your lungs, between the shoulder blades. When you're done, inhale, come up. Exhale, release the mudra, but maintain the bandha. And gently come back. Be seated again. Get ready for the Bhastrika. Kamala Kriya. All right. Let's do the Bhastrika Kriya. 3 rounds, 30 Kriyas in each round. The first round will be slow paced. Focus on the technique. Maintain the bandha in place. Let your lungs expand and contract. Whenever you're ready, let's begin. Pranama Kriya. Kamala Kriya. All right, take a deep breath. As you breathe out, get ready for the second round of Bhastrika Kriya. Slightly faster than the previous round. Try and do 30 if you can. If you need to take a break in the middle, please do so. At your pace, when you're ready, let's go. Kamala Kriya. All right, wonderful. Let's do the third round of Bhastrika Kriya. If you can, if you are tired, just you can continue doing the Kamala Kriya. But if you can, 30 rounds, faster than the previous 2. Let's go. Kamala Kriya. All right. This hand continues the Kamala Kriya. With your right hand, perform the Nadi Shodhana Mudra, forefinger, middle finger bent. Today we will do the Chandra, Bheda, Kriya. Left in, right out. Left nostril you breathe in, right nostril you breathe out. Left nostril you breathe in, 4 counts. Right nostril you breathe out, 8 counts. So it's only one direction, left in, right out. Chandra Bheda. We activate, energize the left side, the moon side of the body. So sit up tall and straight. Focus on the breath, the ratio, the volume of air, the temperature of the breath. Enter the world of the breath. Let your spirit tune into the divine mantra Ram and open in the consciousness into that dimension of oneness where all spirits meet together in this divine mantra, derive solace, sustenance, energy in this divine Leela of life. Let's sit up tall and straight. Neck slightly bent forward, shoulders relaxed. Close your right nostril. Breathe in through the left. Let's begin.
Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale.
Ram Ram Ram.
Exhale.
Ram Ram Ram. Ram Ram Ram.
Inhale.
Ram Ram Ram.
Exhale.
Ram Ram Ram. Ram Ram Ram.
Inhale.
Ram Ram Ram.
Exhale.
Ram Ram Ram. Ram Ram Ram.
Inhale.
Ram Ram Ram.
Exhale.
Ram Ram Ram. Ram Ram Ram.
Inhale.
Ram Ram Ram.
Exhale.
Ram Ram Ram. Ram Ram Ram.
Inhale.
Ram Ram Ram.
Exhale.
Ram Ram. साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। श्रीराम राम रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्रनाम तत्तुल्यं राम नाम वरानने। श्रीराम राम रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्रनाम तत्तुल्यं राम नाम वरानने। श्रीराम राम रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्रनाम तत्तुल्यं राम नाम वरानने। Namaste. For those of you just joining the Satsang, welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam. As always, it is our greatest privilege and pleasure to be able to host this Satsang and have you all virtually together in the Satsang. Let us hope by divine grace that we are able to continue this for as long as we can. In today's chapter, chapter 58, is an important chapter because it is a really long one for one reason. It has about 166 verses. But we are not going to be able to do all of that in one or two or even three sessions. But what makes it important? In this chapter, Hanuman recounts his entire journey to Lanka and back. And that is what makes this so important. As an author, especially in modern day times, if you and I were to write an article, a story, or a book, we wouldn't dare spend a large chunk of that to just recount whatever happened in the previous portion of the book. Because that is not the modern way of writing, I guess. We would say, well, I'm not going to repeat the whole story all over again. But maybe give a glimpse here, a glimpse there. But the ancient writings of stories, of Puranas, are of a different nature. And it's very intriguing to see how much we have changed in the course of history, the course of the years, with our ability to not only maintain focus and concentration and attention. For instance, if we say 111 days yagna, we would say, oh gosh, that's way too long. 1 hour is too long. Give us 5 minutes, 10-minute clips, right? So our attention span is slowly coming smaller and smaller and smaller. And nobody seems to say, all right, wait a minute, we have to develop that attention span because we do have it still with us. But unfortunately, it is, if I take that attention span of mine and apply it to a movie where there is a lot of action, a lot of drama, a lot of change going on, I think I have attention. But then there again, internally, there is so much turmoil and action that I come out of it, creating more turmoil in my head. In other words, more inability to focus. In sleep, we think we maintain focus for 6 hours, 4 hours, sometimes 8 hours if we sleep well. But that's not focus, right? You lose yourself in sleep. You wake up and you infer whether you slept well or not. But in the sleep, you're not aware. So that is not even focus. So the idea of applying mind or applying mindful practice of listening or mindful practice of reading for extended periods of time was and is still a very powerful spiritual practice. Listening especially. Not 5 minutes and 10 minutes. The brain takes time to entrain itself for the right waves to begin to form. And then it secretes hormones that begin to circulate in the body. So what happens is after about 10 minutes or so, the brain slowly begins to settle into a particular waveform depending on the ambience that is being created by what you're listening and what you're seeing. And then accordingly, the hormones are secreted. So if you're watching a horror movie, if you're watching an action movie, you know the consequences of what's happening internally. But it happens so often and nowadays that we have taken it as if it's normal. We don't correlate that with an illness that could happen 2 weeks later and so on. But that's water under the bridge right now. But my point here is how Valmiki, these sages, I want you to take that moment and understand why this was done like this. Why did Valmiki take 166 verses to again recount all this that we just heard? What would have his disciples thought? They're like, oh gosh, here goes the master again with the same old story. I don't think so. There is a deep significance in that kind of a practice. And so when the brain gets settled after 10, 12 minutes, and then it begins to absorb the ambience. So in a satsang, which is about 60 minutes or so, you get the full benefit. So at the end of it, invariably, whether the person is presenting or is just a simple participant, all of that, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, in that end of that session, the benefit of the satsang is fully incorporated in the body. In fact, in traditional yoga sciences, it is believed that when you break this abruptly, like you listen to a bhajan for 10 minutes, you enjoy it, and then you switch suddenly to something else. We're not aware of these things, and I don't want you to get paranoid, but I'm just saying that in traditional yoga approach, it becomes poison. The hormones that starts decreasing suddenly gets mixed with a downward pull of the vayu because of the consciousness going up suddenly begins to drop because you have created a different ambience suddenly, abruptly. And so that energy which is supposed to help you actually becomes poison. So it is important to understand why all of this satsangatve nitsangatvam, like Adi Shankara said, be in satsang and then go alone, meditate on that, contemplate on that. But what we do generally is when we get together for worship or bhajans or whatever it is, immediately after that is over, there is tremendous noise. There is tremendous, hello, how are you, what are you, where were you, and this message and that message, can I have your number, and this and that. And all of that completely destroys the ambience created by that bhajan. Completely. So every individual actually gets, the entire thing is destroyed internally. That is why you could do like this for the next 50 years, 60 years, and we'll say, I don't know, nothing is happening to us. I don't know what these people are talking about, spiritual experiences. I have been going to bhajans, I have been attending kirtans for the last 50 years, nothing happened. Ask yourself what happens after the kirtans. What happens during the kirtans? And therefore, it is in that kind of a spirit we need to bring into this, into Ramayana, the ancient spirit, where patiently you listen, absorb the energy, and every chapter was given for meditation, for rumination, for contemplation, for introspection. And that is how we will take the study of this chapter, because we're getting a chance for those of us who might have missed pieces of information here and there as we went into every single detail. But hear from the words of Hanuman himself, narrating to the Vanaras around him. So he's going to pick and choose, and we listen to his words carefully and apply how we could take that, what we could take home from that, and how we can apply that in our lives. So the scene unfolds in this chapter beautifully as Jambavan, the eldest, as a guru, as a mentor to all of these Vanaras, he respectfully says, Hanuman, you truly are great for having achieved this. Kindly tell us something about the godlike Sita. What was she like? What does she look like? What is Ravana like? And so all the Vanaras are very eager to listen to Hanuman. And Hanuman respectfully bows, looks in the southward direction, and respectfully bows to Mother Sita, and then begins telling his story. Southward direction in our body is the base of the spine. The Swadhisthana and the Mooladhara chakra, the water element and the earth element, that contain the senses, sense of taste in particular, as the water element, and the idea of survival, security, and all of that deep down in the base of the spine. So that is where we have formed a Lanka, our fortress. It is in those places that we carry our deepest memories from across many lifetimes. So when you look from the top of the head, deep down, the mind, the brain, you go deep down, the spinal cord becomes an extension. And in this extension of the mind, there are many doors that connect to the cosmic mind. In fact, the mind is never local. And we'll come to that in a bit. The mind is never local. The mind is never inside you. If that was so, today psychiatrists would tell you where the mind is. But guess what? Nobody really can pinpoint and say where exactly the mind is in your body. Have you ever thought of that? True, the brain is. The brain is the physical organ. It exists even after a person dies. That doesn't mean the mind there is there, right? So where is the mind? Is it in the brain? And if the brain is the spinal cord is an extension of the brain, then where is the mind? In yoga, it is believed from the brain all along the spinal cord. Through these windows that open, the mind comes and goes. So it gives us an impression that the mind is within us, but the mind is non-local. Where do you think empathy comes from? When you see somebody laughing, you smile. How does that happen? When you see a child sad, you also say, oh gosh, poor thing, I don't know what's going on. How does it happen? When you see something on the television and if it's sad, you feel sad. If it's happy, you feel happy. How does that happen? It is because we have the ability to reach out through the mind into the aura of the other person, and the other person has the ability to reach into us. And so we mingle in that. There is a mingling. It is important for us to be aware of this, because as we go into these stories, what is happening is we are taking our mind into that story. And once you understand the mind is non-local, then the mind can not only travel distances here and there, but it can also travel time, now and then, past and future. The mind is capable of going to the past. You know that, I know that, right? You and I can be sitting right here, but you'll be thinking of what happened yesterday or the last week, and you can get so lost in that even your eyes are open, ears are functioning, everything is functioning, but you are, for all practical purposes, absent, which we call absent-mindedness, right? You're not paying attention, we say, because the mind is elsewhere. It is true, the mind has the ability, but it is not traveling from one place to another. The nature of the mind itself is expansion. The mind is not inside you that it decides to travel outside you. The mind was never in the first place. It appears to be in, but it is in constant interaction with the universal energies. And as we study this chapter especially, we will try and take home some homework, something practical that we can do to exploit this beautiful, powerful feature or nature of the mind that is within you and within me. So Hanuman sits on the hilltop, bowing to Sita, reverentially begins his story. So today I'm going to chant only 20 verses. It's a short section. I'm going to take it section by section, not necessarily 166 verses divided by 20 or 25. It's not numbers. Once a particular topic he covers, then I would take that. We will study that. And then we will go to the next one the other day. So even if it's a shorter one, at least we'll have something to ruminate over. And so Hanuman talks about his first experience. He says, you all saw me leap from Mahendra mountain into the ocean. I took this mighty leap and I went flying across. And suddenly out of nowhere from the seas came this beautiful, gorgeous mountain, Mainaka. At first I thought this is a mountain coming to block my path, and I was about to destroy it and break it into 1,000 pieces with my tail. And he says, I almost destroyed this mountain because I was going at a speed. I could have just crashed into it and broken it into pieces and carried on. I almost broke it when this mountain took a human form and spoke to me. And the mountain said, your father is my friend, Indra, who saved us from the wrath of Indra. So the story goes, if you recall, the mountain Mainaka is a mountain with wings. And it is said that in Krita Yuga, mountains had wings. And so the story goes that these mountains became so careless and they took the wings for granted that they would go here and there and move. And so the rishis who would do tapas and austerity were disturbed. This is the Puranic story. Of course, it has a lot of symbolism. And they would get disturbed and they were not able to sit in still in peace. And therefore they complained to Indra, the king of all the gods, saying, we are not able to meditate anymore. These mountains are just using their powers to fly all the time and there's no stillness left. And so Indra began cutting off the wings of these mountains. And one by one, all these mountains came crashing down onto the earth. Of course, it sounds like a fantasy story, and it's very easy for the modern mind to say, this is age-old. People who had no idea of reality and science, mythology as they begin to call it. But you have to remember, the same people who wrote these Puranas, these so-called mythological stories, were the same ones who discovered astronomy, astrology, who knew that the earth was round, right? They knew all of this. They had understood the 5 elements. If you read Patanjali Yoga Sutras, it's a fascinating subject into the psychology of a human being, connecting one to the spirit, exploring the divine potential that lies within the human being. Someday we'll take it up for study for sure. And so, what is the inner symbolism of this? The earth element is the lowermost chakra. The earth stores energy. The earth is gravity, holds gravity. That's why it's called Bhuloka. So, when that earth begins to fly up, it begins to obstruct all the other elements. Now, in terms of yoga and meditation, let me make it even more simpler so that we can all relate to it. When we don't have any structure in life, when there are no foundations, it's very difficult to build anything. It is true that we have to go within and break our conditioned mind. It is true, because we have formed a fortress of sorts and imprisoned ourselves. So the earth is grounded, the mountain is grounded, way too grounded, and we are held there. So we have to break that conditioned mindset. So in Krita Yuga, it is believed there was a time when there was no conditions. The mind was completely free. There was no structure, no foundation. So what happens, even that is the other extreme. One side is imprisonment. The other side is complete lack of any structure, any direction, any foundation. So the symbolism is neither is good. So if your mountains have wings, in other words, if you don't have, how do we relate that everyday life, right? If I don't have some belief system, if I don't have some values, something that I rely on, and I say yes to everything, no to everything, I'll try this, I'll try that. What is my likes? What is my dislikes? I don't know. I don't care. So if it is that carefree type, it might sound great, but it is like going nowhere. It is like going nowhere because there is no direction. So in one sense, that could be called freedom, but in the other sense, it just means that there is lack of structure in your lifestyle. There is lack of a foundation on which you can build everything. Even if a plane wants to take off, it needs a runway for it to first take off. A rocket that shoots off into the space needs a space station from where it can fire itself. So we need a base from which consciousness can take off, right? So there is a beauty in that journey. Otherwise, it will be aimlessly drifting with no direction. not knowing where and what. So the story of the sorry, the story of the winged mountains is to caution us of that kind of mindset which says, I don't believe in anything, I just want to enjoy life, I'll just drift along. And therefore, your core values will be none because you don't have any. And so when life tests you with something, you won't know where to go, what to do, you'll just drift along. Somebody will say this, you say, okay, I'll do that. Somebody will say this, you say, okay, I will do that. And it just goes on back and forth, back and forth. So Indra cut off those wings and say, form, sit on the ground. Go to mountains, go down, sit. So it came down and settled down. So this one particular mountain apparently was helped by the wind god who helped this mountain settle under the sea. So thus it talks to us about how evolution can be, how we can regain our evolutionary process into the spiritual world. We have kind of reached the top of the pinnacle of what we can see around in the physical world, but we have barely begun the next dimension. So we have to understand that this Mandara, the Mainaka mountain, is inside the Swadhisthana chakra down into the Mooladhara. So under the sea lies mountains even to this day, right? Pacific Ocean has mountains taller than Mount Everest. So these mountains still lie there. So those mountains represent our deep, buried, conditioned mindsets that has accumulated over many, 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 many lifetimes. And so this mountain, when we take a spiritual leap into the other dimension in search of Sita, this mountain comes up. What does this mountain contain? So these are some thoughts you can think about and see how it makes sense to you. Okay? So when the Mainaka mountain comes up to Hanuman sees it immediately, intuitively he knows this is an obstacle. It is of sorts, obstacle of sorts, but not an obstacle that needs to be killed like a demon, right? It needs to be controlled. So Mainaka arises and impulsively Hanuman thinks this is an obstacle. I need it out of my way because I'm going for a mission in search of Sita. So it's very important. So he decides to go and the Mainaka mountain speaks. And what does the Mainaka mountain offer? Just like any mountain deep in our own self, security and food. These are the two things. Swadhisthana and Mooladhara chakra. Oh Hanuman, where are you going? You are my friend. I am a friend of your father. I am obliged to them. So all these are bondages, right? I'm a friend. And therefore I'm helping you. If they was not my friend, I may not have come and helped you. That's indirectly understood. So I'm here because your father is my friend. I am so obliged to him and therefore I want to honor you. King Dasharatha is my friend. Right? And what is it therefore, because of this bondage? What is it that I want to offer you? I am going to offer you a place to rest, shelter, and something to eat. Eat something. Refresh yourself from the fruits that I have. Rest a little bit, and then carry on in your journey. Think of that. And that's why, if you remember, when we studied the Mainaka mountain, I said the Mainaka mountain is not in us, we are in the Mainaka mountain. Look around us. That is the Mainaka mountain. When we want to do something, we have a social circle that might say, Arey baapre, you can do all that later, yaar. Come on, this weekend you won't get again. This July 4th is just come and gone. Let's plan a nice camping trip. Let's do this, let's do that. You may want to do something else, but you have the Mainaka mountain that may say, come on, just come on, rest a little bit, eat something. And you can always do that later. Take some rest and go. And you'll say, oh, why not? I mean, they are good friends, they mean good. So the Mainaka mountain meant good because the nature of these energies are to hold you back. Gravity, that's why I was talking about gravity. Gravity is holding the energy from flowing up. Hanuman wants to fly up. The prana wants to move up, but mixed with apana, it begins to slip down. That's why if today obesity is a problem, it's because of that. Because the prana, instead of being in the chest, begins to slip down. Anyway, So Hanuman decides, what does he do? Does he destroy the mountain? It's very important to understand. He does not destroy the mountain. He listens to him and he says, okay, you're my friend. And so Hanuman tells him, I just blessed, I touched the mountain and I carried on. I told him, Hanuman says, I just touched him, I blessed the mountain and went. And of course, we know on the way back, he rests there for a second and comes back. So he gives us an idea. The lesson from Hanuman here is, when you are embarking yourself in the spiritual path is you have a mission, God realization, self-realization. Otherwise, it's not a spiritual path. It will be, if you want to please a God, do it because everybody else is doing, because you were told to do, you're doing, that becomes religion. And spiritual path is your path. You carve that path, you say, I'm into this because I want to realize God. I want to realize divinity in its fullest extent. I want to experience divinity. I want pratyaksha. I want aparoksha anubhuti, first-hand experience is what I'm seeking. So if that is what your aim is, then you are in the spiritual path. And when you're in that path, how do you deal with Mainaka? How do you deal with these tendencies, energies that come to you in the form of friends, books, TV shows, whatever it is, where the emphasis is on food, shelter, security, what to eat, what to drink, and the consciousness gets trapped there. How do you deal with it? So what Hanuman did, he did not destroy them, but he respectfully pressed it. In other words, you have to conquer these urges. Beyond a point, we don't need to eat as much. Beyond a point, we don't need to excessively worry and get caught in an anxiety issue about security and life and all of that. So those kind of things are gone. When we were cave people living in a cave and so on, we had to worry about whether a bear would come or a tiger would come or a lion would come and so on, right? But then we moved away from that millions and millions of years ago. We have come across, we went into then Treta Yuga, and all of that is much, much later, right? So we had evolved to a great extent already. So the point there is, why are we still anxious? Because we most of the time we compare ourselves to somebody else and we think, oh, I must have a 3-bedroom apartment, or I must have 2 or 3 cars parked down in the parking lot or in my garage. I must have a home like this. I must do this. I must do that. Otherwise, I don't know what will happen. And so we have created a kind of our own, a kind of a cage, and then we get caught. And Mainaka Mountain, we sit in the Mainaka Mountain, not able to release ourselves. So let me make it simple. I want to give you an idea of how you can escape from the Mainaka Mountain. Mainaka Mountain is in the middle of the sea. Remember, you can't just decide, okay, I'm going to leave, bye-bye, pack up your camping kit if you're camping there, put it all back in your backpack and walk down the hill and walk away. You can't, because there's a sea all around. So how do you leave the mountain when you're stranded in that island-like mountain? If a helicopter comes and picks you up and goes, that's the best and the fastest way, right? In other words, you can fly. Why did Hanuman not get attracted? Why did Hanuman not get caught up in Mainaka Mountain? Because he was flying. Flying from the Mainaka Mountain is the only way to free yourself from the clutches of these consciousness that is otherwise trapped in these thoughts of what to eat, what to do this, what to do that. And it just caught what to wear, where to go. Look at the shops outside, look at the malls outside. It's about eating and wear clothes, right? Most of the time, medicines, eating, and clothes. So it's either restaurants that we visit, or we go to pharmacies, buy medicine, or we go shopping for vegetables and so on and so forth, or we go shopping for clothes, right? Entertainment comes much later, but at least these are the main things on an everyday basis. Every day you don't go for a movie, hopefully, but that comes later. And so our consciousness is trapped. How do we escape? Fly. What do you mean by fly, you might say? I'm going to give you one word. Most of us do not give importance to that word, but it is one of the greatest powers of this mind that is non-local. And that word is imagination. 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 Every Purana, every epic, the poetry of Valmiki, all of that opens a door for the mind to imagine. When you and I are talking of Hanuman jumping from Mahendra mountain, Vanara sitting around him, Jambavan respectfully saying, how is Mother Sita? Or Mother Sita famished, hungry, austere, penance-like, with a single braid of hair. Devi sitting under the tree. Where do you think your mind is? In the world of imagination. Why do you think Puranas was written? Why do you think epics were written? And why do you think they wanted you to listen and not read? So it was first listening, Shravana, listen. Because when you're listening, the words go in and form images. And the mind is free to imagine. That is why the next thing to that is reading a book. When you read a book, you and I know, right? You read a book, you love the story, it's fascinating. But when you see the movie, you'll say the movie didn't do justice to the book. Most of the time, we say the movie did not do justice to the book. Why? Because the movie was somebody's imagination thrusted onto you. Whereas the book gave you a chance to listen to the words of the author. As you're reading, what you're doing, you're reading it in your mind. So you're listening. So when you listen to the words of the author, your mind opens into an imagination. So your perception and your world that was created with the same book would be very different from my world. The power of imagination is lost today because you and I don't give ourselves the power to imagine. Meditation on the form of a chosen deity is imagination. Just imagine. And you know how we have trained ourselves? Unfortunately, we say imagination. Oh, that is only imagination. That is not real. That is more real than this reality that you and I have created. This reality tells you are limited. Imagination says you are unlimited. Imagination is only limited by whom? By you. So open your mind and imagine. When you imagine, you fly out of the cage. When you imagine, depending on your imagination, of course, you can fly away from the Mainaka mountain. Even if it is temporary, fly. And then it will settle back in Mainaka. Fly again, fly. And one day you will not come back to the Mainaka mountain. No, I don't mean death by any chance. No, your consciousness will learn to free itself. And like Hanuman, you can just tap the Mainaka mountain, continue in your journey to find Sita. Think about this word. The power to imagine is powerful. But it's a tool. These are all just tools. Like a sharp knife is a tool. Is a knife good or bad? It depends on whose hands it is, right? In the hands of a surgeon, the knife gives life. In the hands of a robber, unfortunately, it can take life. So imagination is a powerful tool. One of the qualities of the mind. But with that, you can imagine negative things because the brain, even today's modern science is beginning to understand, the brain does not distinguish the difference between what is real and what is being imagined. The brain does not distinguish. You can read it, you can do research. And this was understood by our rishis thousands of years ago. So don't wait for science to come and say meditation is great. But the path to meditation begins with imagination. And in that imagination, you can hold whatever you want to be as already manifested. Whatever you want in your life, imagine as manifested. and go into that world of imagination. Stay in that world of imagination. If Vaikuntha is in your imagination, where Vishnu is sleeping on this divine serpent and Goddess Lakshmi is pressing his feet, and it's very divine, dive into that. Go into the bottom of the ocean of consciousness. And who do you find? Vishnu. Enjoy that. Be in that divine state. One day it becomes pratyaksha. There is absolutely no doubt. When I say pratyaksha, it becomes so real that you will be unable to not but believe in your own experience. And so imagination is the key that opens your mind and frees it from the Mainaka mountain. So when you think of Mainaka mountain, don't think, how am I going to get freed from this? I'm caught in my senses. Most of the time we focus on the negative side, like I have to control my mind, I have to control the senses, I have to get rid of my ego, I have to get rid of this, I have to get rid of that. So the more we focus fighting the negative tendencies, the more those negative tendencies are going to keep coming up and we are going to be fighting. We're engaging ourselves in a worthless, useless battle. Because in the absence of senses, what am I going to do? I have not figured that out. So simply controlling the senses, doing what? If I say, I am not going to watch television for the next 4 months, Chaturmasa, spiritual sadhana, I'm not going to watch television. Okay, what else are you going to do? So not watching television should not perhaps be one of your criteria. You should say, instead of watching television, I'm going to do something more. I'm going to paint, I'm going to draw, I'm going to learn some music, I'm going to learn singing. Whatever it is you want to do, you focus on that, what you want to do. And this idea of not watching television, the negative approach, is really becomes redundant, right? So now I say, what I'm learning, what am I going to gain in this 4 months? What is my practice going to be? Every day 30 minutes, every day 40 minutes is what I'm going to do doing this. Rather than saying, I want to curtail my habit of, I'm not going to talk to so-and-so, I'm not going to watch TV. That is a negative attitude. If you take a negative approach, you'll be fighting that throughout. Think of a positive. And in that, once you dive into that path, imagine what it is to be perfect in that. Imagine this and enjoy that imagination. Right? If you ask a painter, it is that imagination that bears fruit. And that is joy in itself. It's complete in itself. If you ask a person who's practicing yoga, he's imagining the stretching, the ability for the body to go, and he is doing. But in his mind, he's one with that imagined pose. And so it is great joy, allowing the body to go with the imagination. And the body slowly begins to give in into that imagination. And what is imagined becomes real. What is imagined becomes real, quote unquote, in this dimension, in this understanding of senses. But when you truly understand the power of imagination, your idea of reality, your concept of reality, your definition of reality will change. And therefore, you'll begin to experience other dimensions most beautifully. You can ignore what I said by saying this is just imagination, it has no value, or do some reading, do some research, and understand how powerful imagination is and why we need imagination and why we as children all had the power to imagine. And we have curtailed that power. We are not being taught that in our education. Fine arts is no longer a valued form of education, for example. Not as much as something that helps you make money. But we are told to capitalize on our fears, but not on the beauty of imagination. So use that powerful tool in a positive manner and free yourself from the Mainaka mountain. Let us invoke this divine energy of Hanuman. Chant these verses and listen to the Hanuman Chalisa.
ॐ भूः पुरुषं
श्री बजरंगरूपाय श्री सांब सदाशिवम् आवाहयामि। ॐ भुवः पुरुषं श्री मारुतिरूपाय श्री सांब सदाशिवम् आवाहयामि। ॐ सुवः पुरुषं श्री चिरञ्जीविरूपाय श्री सांब सदाशिवम् आवाहयामि। ॐ भूर्भुवः सुवः पुरुषं श्रीरामदूत हनुमानरूपाय श्री सांब सदाशिवम् आवाहयामि। ॐ ततस्तस्य गिरे शृङ्गे महेन्द्रस्य महाबलाः हनुमत्प्रमुखा प्रीतिम् हरयो जग्मुरुत्तमाम्। तं ततः प्रीतिसंहृष्ट प्रीतिमन्तं महाकपिम् जाम्बवान् कार्यवृत्तान्तम् अपृच्छदनिलात्मजम्। कथं दृष्ट्वा त्वया देवी कथं वा तत्र वर्तते तस्यां वास कथं वृद्ध क्रूरकर्मादशाननः। तत्त्वतः सर्वमेतन्न प्रब्रूहि त्वं महाकपे श्रुतार्थाश्चिन्तयिष्यामो भूय कार्यविनिश्चयम्। यश्चार्थस्तत्र वक्तव्यो गतैरस्माभिरात्मवान् रक्षितव्यं च यत्तत्र तद्भवान् व्याकरोतु नः। स नियुक्तस्ततस्तेन सम्प्रहृष्टतनूरुहः प्रणम्य शिरसा देव्यै सीतायै प्रत्यभाषत। प्रत्यक्षमेव भवतां महेन्द्राग्रात् खामाप्लुतः उदधेर्दक्षिणं पारं काङ्क्षमाणः समाहितः। गच्छतश्च हि मे घोरं विघ्नरूपमिवाभवत् काञ्चनं शिखरं दिव्यं पश्यामि सुमनोहरम्। स्थितं पन्थानमावृत्य मेने विघ्नं च तं नगम् अपसङ्गम्य तं दिव्यं काञ्चनं नगसत्तमम्। कृता मे मनसा बुद्धिर्वेत्तव्योऽयमयेति च प्रहतं च मया तस्य लाङ्गूलेन महागिरे। शिखरं सूर्यसङ्काशं व्यशीर्यत सहस्रधा व्यवसायं च तं बुद्ध्वा सहोवाच महागिरिः। पुत्रेति मधुरां वाणीं मनः प्रह्लादयन्निव पितृव्यं चापि मां विद्धि सखायं मातरिष्वनः। मैनाकमिति विख्यातं निवसन्तं महोदधौ पक्षवन्तपुरा पुत्र बभूवुः पर्वतोत्तमाः चन्दतः पृथिवीं चेरुर्बाधमाना समन्ततः श्रुत्वा नगानां चरितं महेन्द्रपाकशासनः चिच्छेद भगवान् पक्षान् वज्रेणैषां सहस्रशः अहं तु मोक्षितस्तस्मात् तव पित्रा महात्मना मारुतेन तदा वत्स प्रक्षिप्तोऽस्मि महार्णवे रामस्य च मया साह्ये वर्तितव्यमरिन्दम रामो धर्मभृतां श्रेष्ठो महेन्द्रसमविक्रमः एतत् श्रुत्वा वचस्तस्य मैनाकस्य महात्मनः कार्यमध्येव तु गिरेरुद्यतं च मनो मम तेन चाहमनुज्ञातो मैनाकेन महात्मना स चाप्यन्तर्हितः शैलो मानुषेण वपुष्मता शरीरेण महाशैलशैलेन च महोदधौ उत्तमं जवमास्थाय शेषं पन्थानमास्थितः ततोऽहं सुचिरं कालं वेगेनाभ्यागमं पति
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज निज मन मुकुर सुधारी बरनो रघुबर बिमल जसु जोदायक फल चारि बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरा पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहे हरहु कलेश विकार राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीस तिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन वरण विराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगबंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 सूक्ष्म रूप चंद्र के काज संवारे। लाए सजीवन लखन जियाए, श्री रघुबीर हर्षि उर लाए। रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई, तुम मम प्रिय भरत ही सम भाई। सहस बदन तुम्हरो जस गावे, अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा, नारद सारद सहित अहिसा। जम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाँ ते, कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाँ ते। तुम उपकार सुग्रीव ही कीन्हा, राम मिलाए राजपद दीन्हा। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना। जुग सहस्र योजन पर भानु, लियो ताहि मधुर फल जानू। प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माही, जलधि लांघि गए अचरज नाहि। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हरे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, होत न आज्ञा बिन पैसारे। सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी सरना, तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना। आपन तेज सम्हारो आपे, तीनों लोक हांकते कापे। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। नासै रोग हरे सब पीरा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे, मन क्रम वचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे। चारों जुग परताप तुम्हारा, है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नौ निधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। राम 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 राम, श्री राम 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 राम। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुबरपुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चित्तन धरई, हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। जो शत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूटहि बंदी महासुख होई। जो यह पढ़े हृदय डेरा। राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 राम। पवन तनय संकट हरण मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय बसहु सुरभूप। राम 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 श्री राम 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 श्री राम 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 राम। जय श्री राम। समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु। समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु। समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु। Om. May all the beings in all the worlds be happy. जय बोलो पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। नमः पार्वती पतये